Hello. Private planes carrying senior representatives from Gaddafi's government have been sent to Egypt, Malta, Greece and Belgium. It's believed to be part of a diplomatic blitz by the Libyan leader as the uprising continues. Meanwhile, the battle inside Libya goes on, with Gaddafi's forces using tanks, rockets and airstrikes against the rebels. In the last few hours, an airstrike has hit a fuel storage facility in the port of Sidra, near Ras Lanouf. There's an intense battle going on in AlJazeera, the rebel base closest to Tripoli. The town is completely cut off, reportedly surrounded by Gaddafi's tanks. And in Bin Jawad, we're getting reports that rebel forces are no longer in control. Fighting there has been ongoing, and earlier the Libyan government said it had taken back the coastal town after heavy shelling. Lawrence Lee now reports on the latest fighting.
These extraordinary pictures from the rebel front line outside Ras Lanouf give a graphic illustration of the challenges facing the uprising. Small groups of men mill around, encouraging each other. After a quiet few hours, the air raids have begun again. Suddenly, there's a target to aim at. A few more seconds pass and then a Libyan warplane can clearly be seen. This is why it's so hard for the rebels. They have so little time to aim their guns. Given all that, it remains striking how defiant they are.
Where is Gaddafi? We want him here where we're fighting. Gaddafi is sitting in his control room.
This is game over, Gaddafi.
We really want you to just leave Libya and save us from all this bloodshed. Let the young generation rebuild Libya from scratch.
It says nothing for Gaddafi that he's unable to take more advantage of these weaknesses. His latest offer to talk to the media in Tripoli turned into a farcical speech behind a curtain in the middle of the night, in which he once again suggested there was no domestic opposition.
It's a small group from Afghanistan, Algeria, Egypt and Palestine who entered cities. They recruited youngsters, juveniles under the age of 20, upon whom the law cannot even apply. How did they recruit them? They told them to chant, "Say Allahu Akbar."
The apparent target for the warplanes, assuming they fired accurately, was a fuel storage facility which erupted in flames. Ras Lanouf is home to one of Libya's biggest oil terminals. This will have done nothing to calm any nerves in the international community. After the bombing run, the fighters move in convoy towards Ras Lanouf to take their fight to the ground. Just as inevitably, a few minutes later, the ambulances start coming back. The weaknesses of both sides in all this mean the chaos looks open-ended. This is how failed states happen. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera.
Well, Tony Bertley joins us now from AlJazeera in north-central Libya. So, Tony, what have you been witnessing today?
Well, nothing much around here, Lauren. It's very, very quiet. But this is basically the next biggest town to Brega, and then Ras Lanouf. I forgot the name there.
Ras Lanouf.
The town down there. Ras Lanouf. I'm sorry, I've been saying that all day and I forgot it. But yeah, this is, I mean, they're bracing themselves here for whatever happens down there, so there will be a knock-on effect. There are no defences as such, basically a few armed men on the outskirts of town, but generally what happens is if it comes under threat, all the masses of guys with guns mass around the town and start firing wildly, and that's been what's happening, pretty much the pattern for the last few days.
That pattern that you describe, I mean, they don't seem to have changed it. Is there any of them, are there any of them who are deciding that they ought to have a slightly more coherent strategy?
Difficult to get a handle on that one. I think, yes, there are certain officers around trying to get some structure to the army, but you've got to understand most of these people are coming from all backgrounds in life. I've seen professors, students, all kinds, a 70-year-old man with a gun. Everybody wants to take part in this for the great liberation of Libya. So, you know, it's very hard to get a structure. In previous conflicts that I've covered, it's taken months to get some kind of organisation, and that seems pretty much the case here. The difference is they've got a lot of weaponry at their disposal, and if they learn to use it, they are basically a threat. And I think that threat is something that the Gaddafi forces are mindful of, and perhaps that's one of the reasons we haven't seen a huge counter-offensive or an advance from them.
Now, you were recently in Ras Lanouf. Give us an indication of the kind of type of place it is and why it's such a significant battle zone.
Well, it's a sort of a significant crossroads on the main road there, and it's got an oil and gas installation. We saw that oil storage depot that was hit, but it's a massive gas installation complex which is nearby. You know, and I did a report on that, and I went in there yesterday, and if that was to be hit, for example, either deliberately or by accident, and that's a possibility, anything within 15 square kilometres is going to disappear, as they describe it, and people will be killed. So it is on their minds. They fear that, you know, a parting shot from Gaddafi could be to do that, but that would be it. That would be a final shot. Another theory about why he hasn't unleashed his main forces, which are a few hundred kilometres down the road in Sirte, his hometown, is that perhaps he's negotiated behind the scenes, and if he, you know, created a massive loss of life on the opposition, the chances of them forgiving him and allowing him to go and not chase him would be very, very limited. So maybe that's it. There's lots of things coming into play here, and it's very, very unclear what is actually happening.
OK, Tony, thank you very much indeed. Tony Berkeley live there for us near AlJazeera. An update now on those Libyan planes we mentioned earlier. To get the very latest, let's speak to Carl Stanio-Navarro, who's a journalist based in Malta. So, Carl, you were breaking the news that these planes were heading out as a diplomatic mission. Give us more information about those particular journeys.
Well, we can confirm this. AlJazeera is in a position to confirm through Brussels that Libyan diplomats are in Brussels and are speaking to the European Union. We are informed that Catherine Ashton, who's the High Representative of the European Union, who takes care of all the diplomacy, is confirming with AlJazeera that the diplomats are in Brussels and they are engaged right now as we speak. So therefore, AlJazeera was correct in forecasting this diplomatic blitz, which Gaddafi has apparently embarked on. We still don't know exactly the messages these envoys are conveying to the European Union, NATO and the Arab League, because these three planes which suddenly took off from Libya this morning unexpectedly were closely monitored by NATO AWACS and different governments over the countries they flew over. But it is becoming more than evident now that Gaddafi has taken the advice given to him by the Greek Prime Minister late last night in a long conversation the two had together, where apparently Gaddafi asked for advice of how to tackle the situation. Now that we understand that he's feeling either pressured or being cornered by the sanctions which are being imposed at the moment on his regime.
And just tell me also, you're in Malta and the Maltese government is sort of playing a role here. You've got quite good contacts. Do you know the kind of level that these diplomats are at? I mean, are they military or are they sort of inner circle of Gaddafi?
We understand that the delegation that came here are mixed. The delegation which landed in Malta with a flight which then proceeded over to Portugal and in Lisbon in Portugal met with senior government officials. Now, we're not really sure whether this involved the Prime Minister, since the Foreign Minister is away meeting his Italian counterpart, Franco Frattini, who's also playing a crucial role. Well, I am informed that the Maltese Foreign Minister, in his meeting with Frattini, and he spent quite some time with him in Rome today, have been discussing this message conveyed by Gaddafi. Now, the Maltese government is keeping quite tight-lipped about